Hey there, how y'all folks doing this fine day? This is a fact sheet that I have here. It's the Mercury pre-flight and flight test program. Okay, I want to thank y'all for coming by, and this is the cable company, and I want to dedicate this to all the Rocketeers out there, and special thanks to Bob and Tony Rebels for their contributing to the Apollo mission. Also my girl, Lisa Ann Ringer Moat, she was an organ donor. The Northeast Georgia Medical Association made her an organ donor, and she didn't want to be. And she had this she had a dream, and this dream was the worst dream she ever had, because it was about her death. The Mercury pre-flight and flight test program. The Mercury program has specified that before the manned suborbital and orbital flights were to be made, there were various pre-flight test phases that were to be completed. These test programs included development test of full-scale boilerplate test capsules covering design criteria, components, and component reliability. These tests would establish design criteria to guide the manufacturers of the final capsule, aid in the capsule's component development, and help ensure the reliability of the final capsule system. 2. Qualification tests involving all final hardware. The capsule and the equipment on board included were a series of animal flights which it represented a biological test bed to give the answer to these questions. A. Is the life support system adequate and reliable enough to meet the known metabolic requirements? Are the dynamic force stresses imposed as predicted? C. Does the protective equipment, couch, and restraints maintain these force effects within the range of the psychological tolerances? 3. Pilot missions in ballistic flight to train pilots and aid in the qualification of orbital flight through the performance of tasks during ballistic flights to increase the reliability of the mission. The important consideration of the safety recovery after the re-entry of the capsule into the atmosphere has been satisfied by the extensive testing that has been performed on the capsule. Since the Mercury capsule is wingless, it is necessary that it be lowered to the Earth by a parachute. The testing was accomplished by dropping the capsule from a large transport airplane. Capsules were aircraft dropped for the purpose of testing the mechanical and automatic release mechanisms, and to study the snatch and the shock forces associated with high altitude parachute releases. The airdrop program was designed to tell scientists the optimum altitude at which to deploy the recovery parachute, reliability of the parachute system, motion to be expected during descent, impact forces in both water and ground landings, and reliable methods of recovery after landing. The Mercury capsule is launched. It will have on top of its pylon-like arrangement tipped with an escape rocket system. If the booster malfunctions at any time from the pad to separation of the booster and capsule, an escape rocket can be triggered and it will carry the capsule and its occupant away from the booster. Normal recovery by parachute will then take place. Reliability tests have been conducted at NASA's Wallops Island, Virginia launching site. At Wallops Island, boilerplate models of the capsule escape combination were tested on the pad and before separation conditions. On the pad, tests were performed by lifting the capsule by the escape tower rocket from a stand and safely recovering the capsule after a normal parachute descent. Before separation tests were performed by boosting the capsule escape tower combination to a high altitude with a Little Joe booster. The safe recovery of the capsule following a parachute descent after the escape rockets had pulled it away from the Little Joe demonstrated the escape tower's capability. In-flight behavior of the capsule was studied at the Langley and Ames wind tunnels and at the Air Force Arnold Engineering Development Center, Tullahoma, Tennessee. Also, pre-flight studies were made at Wallops Island for the same purpose. At Langley, scientists employed wind tunnels to determine heat transfer and pressure of the heat shield and dynamics and stability. After body pressure distributions and lift and drag, the Langley tunnels have a wind velocity capability of Mach 18, which is 11,000 miles per hour. At the Ames Research Center, Moffattville, California, the wind tunnels were used to study panel flutter pressure and heat transfer, static and dynamic stability, plus lift and drag in Mach 0.6 to 390 miles per hour to Mach 15.3, which is 9,950 miles per hour velocity range. The Arnold Center performed lift, drag, stability, and pressure distributed studies in the speed range of Mach 0.5, which is 325 miles per hour, to Mach 2.0, which is 13,000 miles per hour wind velocities. After orbital flight, re-entry, and parachute deployment, the capsule will descend with a velocity of 30 feet per second. Drop test at this velocity in the water tank facilities at the Langley have shown that a safe water or land landing can be made with the presently shaped leading face on the capsule. A chronological lifting of the Mercury launching follows. 1. September the 9th, 1959, Big Joe. NASA produced research and development capsule launched on an Atlas from Cape Canaveral. The test was validation of the Mercury concept. Capsule survived high heat and air load. Successful recovery of the capsule. 2. October the 4th, 1959, the Little Joe 1, fired at NASA's Wallops Island, Virginia, stationed to check the matching of the booster and the spacecraft. 8 solid propellant rockets, 250,000 pounds of thrust, drove the vehicle. Number 3, November the 4th, 1959, Little Joe 2, fired from the Wallops Island, Virginia. Flight was an evaluation of the low altitude abort conditions. Number 4, December the 4th, 1959, Little Joe 3, fired at Wallops Island to check high altitude performance of the escape system. A reduced monkey SAM was used to test subjects. 5, January 21st, 1960, Little Joe 4, fired at Wallops Island to evaluate the escape system under high air loads, using the Renus monkey, Miss Sam, as the test subject. Number 6, May the 9th, 1960, Beach abort test. First production capsule and its escape rocket systems were fired in and off the pad abort escape rocket system test. Capsule number 1. Number 7, July 29, 1960, Mercury Atlas number 1. This was the first Atlas boosted flight and was aimed at qualifying the production capsule under maximum air loads and after-body heating rate during re-entry conditions. The capsule contained no escape system and no test subject. Capsule 4. Number 8, November the 8th, 1960, Little Joe 5. This was another in the Little Joe series from Wallops Island. Purpose of the shot was to check the production capsule in an abort simulating the most severe conditions. Capsule number 3. Number 9, November 21st, 1960, Mercury Redstone number 1. This was the first unmanned Redstone boosted flight. But premature engine cutoff activated the emergency escape system when the booster was only about 1 inch off the pad. The booster settled back on the pad and was damaged slightly. The capsule was recovered to reuse. Capsule number 2. 10. December 19, 1960, Mercury Redstone 1-8. This shot was a repeat of the November 21st attempt and was completely successful. The capsule reached a peak altitude of 135 statute miles, covered a horizontal distance of 236 statute miles, and was recovered successfully. That was capsule number 2. Number 11, January the 31st, 1961, the Mercury Redstone 2. This was the Mercury Redstone shot that carried Ham, the 37-pound chimpanzee. The capsule reached 155 statute miles altitude and landed 420 statute miles downrange and was recovered. Capsule number 5. Number 12, February 21st, 1961, the Mercury Atlas 2. This Atlas boosted capsule shot was to check maximum heating and its effect during the worst re-entry conditions. Peak altitude was 108 statute miles. Re-entry angle was higher than planned and the heating was correspondingly worse than anticipated. It landed 1425 statute miles downrange. Maximum speed was about 13,000 miles per hour. The capsule was safely recovered. Capsule number 6. 13. March 18, 1961, Little Joe 5A. This was a repeat of the November 8 Little Joe shot. Purpose of the shot was to check for production capsule in an abort simulating the worst expected condition. This is capsule number 14. All right, number 14, April the 25th, 1961, Mercury Atlas 3. This was an Atlas boosted shot attempting to orbit the capsule with a mechanical astronaut aboard. 40 seconds after launching, the booster was destroyed by the range safety officer. The capsule was recovered for reuse. Capsule number 8. 15. April 28, 1961, Little Joe 5B. This was the third attempt to check the escape system under the worst conditions. A Little Joe launched from Waltz Island boosted the capsule to a 40,000-foot altitude. Capsule 14. 16. May 5, 1961, Mercury Redstone 3, the Redstone boosted shot carried astronaut Alan B. Shepard Jr. on a ballistic flight path, reaching a peak altitude of 115 statute miles and downrange distance of 302 statute miles. Capsule number 7. 17. July 21st, 1961, Mercury Redstone 4, the fifth carried astronaut Virgil Gus Grissom to an altitude of 118 statute miles and 303 miles downrange. The capsule sank despite helicopter recovery efforts. Capsule number 11. 18. September 13, 1961, Mercury Atlas 4. The flight saw the spacecraft attain orbit for the first time. The craft carried a crewman simulator designed to use oxygen and put moisture into the cabin at about the same rate as a man. Craft was recovered as planned about 160 miles east of Bermuda after one orbit. That was capsule number 8. 19. November 29, 1961, Mercury Atlas 5. The purpose of the Atlas booster shot was to orbit the chimpanzee Enos around the Earth. The chimpanzee and the capsule were recovered safely after a flight of 2 orbits. All of the planning has been done to determine man's capability in space environment. All preparations and testing in the Mercury program has thus been orientated to place a manned United States spacecraft into orbit around the Earth and, most important, to recover the spacecraft and its occupant safely. And that was the fact sheet. Right there. Okay? And, but just don't forget about why we're doing this. My Lisa, she was an organ donor and didn't want to be. If you're on there, you got yourself down as an organ donor, well, get that off of you. They've been working on this since the 50s, okay? Guys, they got robotics that can do all that crying and everything. Oh, we need some organs. We need to stake your... Well, I don't want to be the one that might inform you about something because nobody wants to listen to nothing I got to say about what's going to happen. You don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. And you give your body parts away in this life and you come back next life. You may not have any. Hey, your spirit may not die. You may just keep going. How would you like that, huh? You just keep on going, but this body dies and you jump into another one. Your spirit, maybe you got to go on a few. Who knows how long it stays. Maybe you might not come back and then somebody has a child or something, but it happens. You could jump in there and it's something I feel I got. Don't give your organs away robotics. Tell them to take their money in robotics. All they're doing is taking your money, and you don't even. Hey, when you dig somebody, when your family members up and they ain't got no work and their stuff full of newspaper, well, I told you so. Okay. All right, now you can write to me if you want to. Mitchell Lerner, Senior, 301 Harbor Valley Road, Tacoma, Georgia, 30577. Write me today. Tell me what's on your mind, and I'll tell you what's on mine. Thank you for coming in and seeing me today with NASA. We'll try to do a little bit as we go on. But don't forget about Lisa's grandbaby law. Let's get that out there. Okay, talk about it. Look up Brain Dead. Thank you.